Hi, I'm Miss Haley with the Huntsville-Madison County Public Library, and today I'm going to show you how to do a simple perler bead pattern. This one is a video game heart, which is a really basic one actually, and it looks super cute. So we're going to do that today. And perler beads are also sometimes called fuse beads, so just whatever you know them are. I think Perler is actually a brand. So for this activity, you're going to need a pattern. This is the pattern I have drawn out for my video game heart. It's pretty lopsided. I didn't actually have real graph paper, so I just kind of did my own grid. You don't need graph paper to make your own grid. But this is a pattern we're going to be following. The squiggly lines, the colored in portions are black. The 3 spots with an X represent my white color, and everything in between here is going to be the color of the actual heart. So everything outside of this black border there's nothing there. And then everything inside is going to be red, unless it's one of the spots with the X. So we're going to use this grid to create our perler bead art. And it's pretty important that you have a pattern to follow. You can wing it if you don't care what it looks like. You can definitely do that. But if you want to create something specific, I definitely recommend making a pattern first or finding one. You can find tons of patterns online. You can probably find something very similar to this online. I'm sure that other people have done video game hearts before. So I'm just going to set this in front of me so that I can see it. Then you're also going to need, I'm going to go ahead and move it out of my way so I don't accidentally burn myself, but you're going to need an iron, which means you're going to need an adult unless you are old enough, and your parents think you're old enough to do this on your own. Get an adult to help you with the ironing part, because that is hot and you could burn yourself. But you do need an iron. You don't need it super hot, like you don't need it on the hottest setting, but about medium to medium high is where you want your iron setting to be. Then you're going to need a perler bead board, which is just this right here. And you can get these in all different sizes and shapes. I definitely recommend a square one for this, because we'll have a square grid, the same as our grid that we have drawn out. And that will help us to create our piece. You want to make sure it's at least wide enough to hold your design. My design is, at the longest it's 11 beads wide, and this is definitely long enough to hold it, but barely. So make sure whatever grid you're using is long enough and wide enough to hold your design. You can buy these at most craft stores, I think, carry perler bead supplies now. You can get kits. This one came in a kit. I recommend just getting your own board, though, if you want to actually do this as a hobby or make more than, say, one of these. I recommend going ahead and getting a bigger board, because I have found that the boards that come in kits are often not very good. So just something to keep in mind. You need one of these. You also need ironing paper. Ironing paper is paper meant to iron. Pretty simple. I'm not exactly sure what makes it so special, if it's like wax paper or parchment paper, but you can buy ironing paper. You can buy sheets of it pretty cheaply, again, kind of in the perler bead section of whatever craft store you're at. So you need some ironing paper. The good news is you can reuse it. You can see there's some discoloration on this because I've used it before. Then you're going to need some actual perler beads or fuse beads. So perler beads look like this. They're little small black beads. They're round. Well, this one's black. They come in all different colors. You can buy big tubs of them that are in lots of various colors, and then you can pick out what you need. You can also buy specific colors, whatever you want. If you're not going to get super into this as a hobby, or if you're not sure yet, I just go ahead and buy a multi-pack to get started. So for this particular design, you're going to need 24 black or border color. You don't have to do the same colors. I'm doing a classic colored video game heart, so black, white, and red. And it'll be nice and pixelated. That's the good thing about perler beads, is it creates sort of pixel art. You, however, can use any colors you want. So whatever your border color is, mine is black, you need 24. You need 3 of your highlight color, which is in this case white. I don't know that I recommend using a different color than white for that. And then you need 43 of your inside color, so your heart color. In this case, mine is red, so I have 43 of those. I actually have a couple extra, just in case I drop any. I do not have extra of the white or the black because I'm running a little low on those, so hopefully I don't drop any of them. You may also want some tweezers. Perler bead art can be a little tedious. It can be a little finicky. You have to place them just so and not accidentally knock them everywhere. So you may also need tweezers, and you can use those. Those are optional, however. I use my fingers. It's just kind of up to you and what works. If you use tweezers, I recommend that you get some with a really fine point. Don't get really wide-ended tweezers, or you'll find yourself just as frustrated as you would with your fingers. And then last of all, you will need an ironing surface. I am actually on my ironing surface right now, so that's what you see in this background. In this case, it is 2 very thick towels that I have laid out over my table, and they will be my ironing surface. I'm not going to iron very hotly or for a very long time, so you don't need a ton of protection if you don't have an ironing board. 2 towels folded up and laid out flat will help. But you can also use an ironing pad or an ironing board. I recommend doing this on whatever surface you're going to iron on, because then you can just put your little palette right down there. If you guys can see that, I don't know how well. Yeah, you can see that, how well the clear shows up. And then you can just, when you're ready to iron, put your ironing paper on and iron. You don't have to worry about moving this with a bunch of loose perler beads on them and accidentally dropping them, or if your hands are really shaky, sending them flying everywhere. I have seen that happen before, and it's not, it's always really disappointing when that happens. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And I recommend that you start on one end and you just work your way down. I don't recommend that you do your border first and then fill in the inside, because then it's much easier for you to knock over stuff accidentally. So I recommend starting either on one side and working your way, or going top to bottom. That's why it's super duper important for you to have your pattern. So we're going to start, I think, on the left side and work our way right. I'm going to be a righty probably on this today. So I need at least, let's see, according to my pattern, we're going to look at my pattern. So I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blank spots before I start on that side. So we're going to start with that left-hand side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to start right there. And so I'm just placing these. There's these little tiny pegs. And I guess I lied. I'm a lefty today when I'm placing these. Maybe I should have started on this side. Do I want to do that? I think I will. We're going to change our mind. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 5. And so starting on the 6th peg, we're going to place our perler beads. So there's, on a perler bead board, there's just these little tiny plastic pegs. They don't go up very far. They're just kind of these little points of plastic there. And I'll turn this so that it's facing you guys more. There we go. So you're just kind of setting on there. Because they're not very deep, they're going to move a lot, but that's also what lets you take this off when you're ready. So it's important. Alright, so next I need 1 here, and then I need 3 of my heart color. I guess I just can't make up my mind about which hand I want to work with, can I? That's okay. And I'm just taking them, dropping them. I'm a little shaky with my right hand today, which is going to be hard, but we're just dropping them on there. And this is why I recommend working from one side to the other, especially if you're using your fingers. It's really hard to get in there once you've done it, but it's very easy to go in rows. So we're going to go to our next row. According to my pattern, I need to start here. Oops. Completely wrong spot. We're going to fill in. We're just going to keep doing this following the pattern. So you can follow along with me. You can go back You can rewind to the part where I show you guys the pattern if you want. You can do that too. And just follow along there. However it works for you. You can watch the whole video and then go back. That's probably what I would do. Okay, so according to my pattern, here we are. We've done 3 rows, so we've done this row. So we're on this one next. So that was the top of the heart right here. So we're just going to go right here. But we're going to start taking it further down here. Hopefully I started this thing far enough up. Hopefully I counted right. Pretty sure I did, but you never know. It's important that you, when you're positioning it, that you do start in the right spot. If you do not, depending on how far off you were, you may have to start over. There's not really any picking these up and moving them. So yeah, that can be a frustration. Just be aware of that. And now I need a black one. So you can see I'm starting to go a little further down on this one while staying up on this top part. I'm forming my points. We're going to come in one here, so right there. This is going to be a pretty small heart. These aren't huge. You can do a lot of different things with your perler bead art once you're done with it, which we're not close to being done yet. We're about, I don't know, almost halfway done. But once you are done with it, you can do a lot of different things with it. You can leave it how it is and just set it up somewhere and use it as decor. You can turn it into jewelry. I've seen people do that. You can turn it into magnets. I've seen a lot of magnets. Magnets seem to be popular. Alright, so looking at my pattern, I need to come here next. So that is my inner point on the top part of my heart. That's as far down as that is going to come, which means this bottom one is also going to be my bottommost point. So we're going to go all the way down with this, which means I did position it well. I could have gone a little further up, I guess, but you know, as long as I have enough room, we're good. So we're adding the inner heart rows all the way down until the last one, which will be a black for our border. And if you hear clicking, that's my iron clicking on and off. So now we're coming up the other side of the heart. So we're going to come up one with the black. Whoops. And then we're going to come down with red, but we're not going to go as far this time because we need to, again, on the bottom part, we need to come up one as well. And this will be, if I'm looking at my pattern correctly, this will be the last full row of red before we get some white pieces going in there as well for the highlight. Whoops, that is not in the right position. So that looked like it was almost in the right position. It landed up, but it was actually between pegs. So as you are working, just make sure that you're getting your perler beads in the right position and they're not a little off. If you get one that's a little off, it's going to throw the whole thing off, or if the rest of it's okay and just that one's off, you're going to tell when you finish it and when you iron it. You're going to really be able to see that, and it's going to look weird. Okay. So I'm on the spot now where we're going to start adding in our highlight. This one only has one, so we're going to put a white one right there according to my pattern. And we're going to keep coming with the red. Again, I hope I have enough red. I hope I counted right when I pulled those out. So it looks like we're coming down with red 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've got 2, 3, and 4. And now we add a black. And now we are going to come next to that one, because that's again our top part of our heart. And now we are going to have one red, and then we're going to have two white, because this is the side of our highlight on our pixel art here. And we have two red. It can be very helpful to count how many you need. If you find yourself struggling with a pattern, just doing it by looking, you can always count how many you need. You can do that. Alright, so now on the pattern, we're going to come in one, because we're coming around the side of this heart, and then we need three red. This should be the last of our red. So I did count right. I have exactly the amount I need, plus a couple extra there. Yay, I didn't drop any. I shouldn't say that too soon. I could ruin the whole thing. There's nothing like getting done with a perler bead work and then knocking it and having them go everywhere. That's always really a great moment. Alright, and then we're on our last row. We're going to finish it off just with three black. Right like that. Alright, there we go. And so you see I have a lot of room on my board. I could have just started at dead center. I find it's easier to figure out how far up you need to come and just do the minimum. That way if you're a little off, you have room to maneuver. So this is our finished structured perler bead heart. Looks pretty good on camera. And I'm going to go ahead and just move this plate out of the way, because we are going to iron it now. I'm going to move our pattern too. So when you iron, you don't need a bunch of the paper. You only really need one side. This is to protect your iron, because if you iron directly on the perler beads, what's going to happen? They're going to melt, and they're going to melt and stick to your iron. We want them to melt and stick to our paper. Then we can peel it off, let it dry, and then we can peel it off the paper. And it usually comes off the paper really easily, really, really well. So we're going to carefully lay our paper over it. I'm going to kind of hold it with one hand, and then we're going to set our iron directly down on top of it. When we do this, we're going to be careful to set it down and let it sit for a second. That way we don't, if we set it down and move, we might knock some of our beads. So you do have to be careful when you're setting it down that you're not knocking your perler beads. So you're getting help with this. Make sure your adult is watching this video, or that you let them know, hey, you need to set it down directly on top, like so, and not move it around too much. Once you've got it on top, you can kind of do these little circles. And you're just melting. I like to use my point so that I can see. I'm not really pressing very hard. Just melting the perler beads a little bit. You don't want to melt them down a ton. We don't want to have a slag heap when we're done. But just enough that they're all going to stick together and stay connected. My iron is not super hot. This, depending on the heat of your iron and what kind of iron you're using, this could go really quickly, or it could take a little bit longer. My iron is not super hot right now, so it's taking a little longer. Alright, I think we're good. You can very gently, it should just lift up. You might have to peel it up a little bit, but you should just be able to lift it up and flip it over. And now we're going to let it cool. Don't touch it. Don't move it. Just let it cool for a bit, because we have just melted those. They are very, very, very hot, and we do not want to burn ourselves. So we're just going to let that sit for a second. I'm going to go ahead and unplug my iron. You can start putting some stuff away and cleaning up if you want. Let your plastics thing sit for a little bit. It might be a little warm, but it shouldn't be too hot. Unless you just really press down with the iron, you could accidentally melt into this, depending on how far you go. This one has been used a lot. And so there's a couple on here that have melted where I was learning how to do it. Alright, so I'll let that cool. Still very hot. Yep, still really, really hot. Once it's cool enough that you can touch it, and don't just like to tell, don't stick your finger on there to tell, like kind of feel of it a little bit from afar. You can gently peel away from your plastic, and you have perler bead art. Now mine, you can tell, if you look, it's more melted over here, it's less melted here. So I didn't get an even melt. I don't particularly care. This one's barely melted. That one could have gone a lot longer. That one I could probably pull him off. So that's something you can, if you're not pleased with it, you can turn it around. You can put it back on the thing and iron again if you need to. You can melt it more or less, just depending on the look you want to get. But I wanted to show you the variety. So here's where it's melted a lot, and here's where it's melted very little, and maybe too little right there. But that is your perler bead art, and you can do all sorts of things with it. You can string it up. It can be an ornament. It can be jewelry. I've seen people turn, maybe this is a little big, but I've seen people turn these into earrings. You can also use magnets. If you get some magnets, you can hot glue those to the back and use it as a magnet. All different sorts of things that you can do with it. But I hope you have fun with it, and I hope you're careful with your iron, and we'd love to see what you create. You can send those to us. You can leave comments. You can also send those to us at our Facebook page, which is Huntsville, Madison County Public Library, and we would love to hear from you. Thank you.